If you had asked me what I wanted in my life 5 years ago, I would have said, I want to be happy. If you had asked me 10 years ago, I would have said, I just want to be happy. At any given point in time, that would have been my answer, and I never even knew exactly what that meant. If you had asked me what would make you happy, I would say things like a solid relationship, money, a house, a career, whatever it was at that moment that I thought would provide that for me would be my response. So I went about my business and I did those things. And I went to law school and I finished and I started to practice law. And I had already gotten married and we bought a house and redid it. And it was exactly the way I wanted it to be. So I had all of those things that I had always thought I wanted, those things that would bring me happiness. I was clean and sober. I was focusing on those things about me that I didn't necessarily like. But I still had this feeling that I didn't have happiness, that I still wasn't sure what it was. I still had this focus on the past and on the future all the time. And about 4 years ago, I started to pray. And there's a long story behind that I won't get into right now. But shortly after that, I was introduced to Eckhart Tolle. And I happened to have his book through a really strange course of events. And I picked it up one day, A New Earth, and I started to read it. And I couldn't put it down. And he talked about things. He talked about the ego, which was always a huge problem for me. I had always heard things like I was an egomaniac with an inferiority complex, that I had this huge ego, but I was always insecure. So I had some understanding of the ego, but he talked about it in a different way. He said that the ego is what we believe is who we are, and that it identifies with either the past or the future, and that's how it stays alive. That it's not here in the present. So then he went on to say, and I'm paraphrasing, that depression stems from living in the past and anxiety from living in the future. Well, that was such a wonderful thing for me to hear, because I could finally understand where I was. You know, I was always in the past or the future. I was never in the day. So I always had this belief that things were going to be better tomorrow. Things were horrible yesterday, but they would be better tomorrow. And, you know, at some point I realized that tomorrow never really comes. By the time tomorrow comes, it's always today again. And when I was actively using drugs, that was always my mantra. You know, tomorrow will be better, and tomorrow I'll stop, and tomorrow I'll be a good mother, and I'll, you know, be a good lawyer, and whatever it was that I was working toward being, that I would be that tomorrow. So once I heard that, I really started to focus on the fact that that had been my experience, that I was either depressed or I was anxious all the time. And, you know, my past wasn't good. I grew up in an addict-surrounded home. I moved around from foster home to foster home. I was a runner. I was homeless for a period of time when I was really young. I had experiences with some really shady people who didn't care about me and didn't care about what my future would be like as a result of those incidents and experiences. So I had this idea that my future would be bad too, subconsciously, because consciously I thought I can do whatever I put my mind to, that I will be okay no matter what. But subconsciously there was always that voice in the back of my head that said, it's never going to be okay. You're always going to be a misfit among these people. You will never fit here. So then I started to learn about meditation. And I always say, and I believe wholeheartedly, that I was led to this because I hadn't had any desire up to that point to be introspective at all. But then I did, and I started to practice. And I learned things like meditation is, the purpose of meditation, at least for me, is to be present. It's to learn how to be here right now, in this moment. Eckhart also said something about how we always do something as a means to an end. Like when I'm doing the dishes, I'm doing them because I want them done. I want to have clean dishes. I'm not enjoying the experience or being in the experience, whether I'm enjoying it or not, while it's happening. So what ends up being the result is that I go through all of my days just trying to get through them to get to the next one when I'll be happy, because that's when it will be, after this moment, after this day, then I'll be happy. So I can never really get there, because happiness is today. It's right here, right now. So that's my focus and my practice. And that's why I meditate. That's why I put in the effort and take the time, so that tomorrow I won't look back and say, oh, I wish I had done this. I wish I had done that. I'm learning to just be where I am.